You would never believe me if I told you that the guy who spent years making my life hell at work is now the one who won't stop looking at me like I'm the only person in the room. Funny, isn't it? Life has a cruel sense of humor. One moment you're the punchline to someone's joke, the next you're wondering if that same person might just be the one capable of breaking you and maybe putting you back together. It all started on a rainy Tuesday in New York City. The kind of rain that turns the streets into a blur of gray, making you wonder if you've been living in the same loop for too long. I was already soaked when I reached the office, carrying my laptop bag like a shield against the storm. And of course, he was there, Ethan. Tall, sharp jawline, dark hair always falling just slightly into his eyes, like even gravity wanted to worship him. He was leaning against my desk, arms crossed, smirk plastered across his face as though he'd been waiting just for me. "Late again, Michael?" he teased, voice dripping with mockery. What is it this time? Got lost in the mirror? It was the same routine. For months, Ethan had found new ways to jab at me. My clothes, my clumsy mistakes, even the way I laughed. And though his words stung, what hurt more was the strange weight behind them. Like there was something he wasn't saying. Still, I didn't let him win. "Good morning to you too," I muttered, brushing past him and logging into my computer. But that day was different. That day, he didn't stop. By lunchtime, I was ready to escape the office entirely. I slipped into the break room, grabbed a coffee, and tried to lose myself in scrolling through emails. Then I felt Ethan's presence. Ethan closed the door behind him, cutting off the chatter of the office, and leaned against it as if he owned the place. "Do you ever stop breathing down my neck?" I asked, annoyed but hiding the quickened beat of my heart. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped closer, until the faint scent of his cologne wrapped around me. Something woody, intoxicating, too close for comfort. His eyes, those sharp, restless eyes, were fixed on me. No mockery this time, just intensity. "You really don't get it, do you?" he said quietly. I frowned. "Get what?" "That every time I tease you, it's not because I hate you. It's because I don't know how else to deal with this." His voice cracked on the last word, his mask slipping for the first time in months. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the alternative was letting the weight of his confession crush me. "You can't be serious. You've spent half a year making me miserable, and now you expect me to believe you're, what, secretly in love with me?" Silence. And in that silence, I realized he wasn't joking. The storm outside rattled against the windows, but all I could hear was the thundering of my own heart. "I don't want to play games with you, Ethan," I whispered. His jaw tightened, but his eyes softened. He stepped so close I could feel the warmth of him, his hand brushing mine just barely, but enough to send electricity shooting through me. "Then don't. Just let me show you what I've been trying to say all along." I should have pulled away. I should have walked out, but I didn't, because beneath all the hurt and humiliation he had caused me, there was a part of me that had always noticed him, always wondered what it would feel like if the fire in his eyes wasn't aimed at tearing me down, but at pulling me closer. And in that moment, I realized I was already falling. The following weeks blurred into a mess of contradictions. Ethan didn't stop teasing me completely, but the edge was gone. Instead, his words felt like an invitation, a dare. He'd hover near my desk, brush my arm in passing, let his gaze linger too long during meetings. And I hated that I noticed every single detail. At night, I'd lie awake replaying our conversations. The way his voice dropped when no one else was around, the almost smile he saved just for me. I told myself it was nothing, just another cruel joke. But my heart betrayed me. One Friday evening, as the office emptied, I found myself trapped again. Ethan leaned against the doorway, blocking my exit with that infuriating smirk. But this time, it wasn't mockery, it was something else. Something dangerous. "You're avoiding me," he said. "Maybe because you're impossible to deal with," I snapped, though my voice shook. He stepped closer. "Or maybe because you're afraid of what you're feeling." I froze. His words cut too deep, too precise. "Ethan, tell me I'm wrong," he whispered, eyes burning into mine. "Tell me you don't feel it too." But I couldn't. Because the truth was, I felt it in every glance, every touch, every unspoken word between us. And the terrifying part was, I didn't want it to stop. That night he kissed me. It wasn't soft or hesitant. It was urgent, desperate, like he'd been holding back for too long. And when his lips met mine, all the anger, all the confusion, melted into something undeniable. My knees went weak, my hands tangled in his shirt, pulling him closer because I couldn't bear the thought of distance. When we finally broke apart, breathless, he looked at me with something I'd never seen in him before: fear. "Michael," he whispered, voice raw, "I don't know how to do this. I've never felt like this before." And for the first time I believed him, because beneath the arrogance and teasing, there was a boy just as lost as I was. And maybe, just maybe, we could find our way together. The days after that kiss were chaos. Not the kind you could see in the office mails still piled up, clients still demanded impossible deadlines, and coffee still tasted like burnt regret. But inside me, everything had shifted. Ethan and I carried this fragile, electric secret between us, and every glance across the room felt like a spark threatening to set the whole place on fire. He tried to keep his usual mask, but I noticed the changes. His teasing grew softer, almost playful. He'd find excuses to brush against me in the hallway, or hover just long enough by my desk that coworkers raised their eyebrows. I should have been terrified of being found out, of what people might say if they caught us. But instead, I found myself addicted to the thrill. Still, fear gnawed at me. Fear of trusting someone who had spent months making me feel small. Fear that this was some twisted game I hadn't figured out yet. And worse, fear of my own heart, because it was no longer mine. One evening, I stayed late, trying to drown myself in spreadsheets to escape my thoughts. The office was quiet, the hum of fluorescent lights filling the silence. I didn't even hear Ethan until he was right behind me. "You're still here." His voice was low, softer than I'd ever heard it. I turned, startled, and met his eyes. No smirk, no armor. Just him. "Couldn't sleep," I admitted. He stepped closer, hands shoved deep in his pockets as if he was holding himself back. "Neither could I." We stood there, words choking us both, until finally, I broke. "Ethan, what are we even doing? You tormented me for months, and now this. You can't just expect me to forget." His face twisted with regret, and for once, I saw the boy beneath the bravado. "I know. I was an idiot. I didn't know how else to deal with it, what I felt. You scared me, Michael. You still do. And I pushed you away the only way I knew how." The raw honesty in his voice left me breathless. For the first time, I saw that his cruelty had been a shield, a clumsy attempt to hide the fact that he had been falling just as hard as I was. Before I could respond, he reached out, tentative, like he was afraid I'd vanish if he touched me. His fingers brushed mine, and I didn't pull away. "Couldn't. You make me want to be better," he whispered. And that was the moment I stopped fighting. Because despite everything, despite the pain and confusion, my heart already belonged to him. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Being with Ethan was like learning to breathe all over again. We stumbled, argued, got lost in misunderstandings. He still teased me, but now it was laced with warmth instead of poison. And I still doubted him, but less and less each day as his actions began to match his words. One night we left the office together, rain pouring down just like that first day. Ethan grabbed my hand in the middle of the street, not caring about the people rushing past, not caring about the world. "Why do you look terrified?" he teased, though his thumb brushed mine reassuringly. "Because this feels real," I admitted. "And real things have a way of breaking." He stopped walking, pulling me into the shelter of a storefront awning. Rain dripped from his hair, his shirt clinging to his chest, but his eyes never wavered. "Then let it break," he said, "and I'll put it back together. As many times as it takes." I wanted to laugh at how absurdly romantic it sounded, but instead, I kissed him, right there, in the middle of New York, with strangers passing by and rain soaking us both. I kissed him like I'd been holding my breath for years. But life has a way of testing you just when you start to believe in happiness. Rumors spread in the office, quiet whispers, suspicious glances. Someone had seen us leave together too many times. Someone had noticed the lingering touches. One morning, I walked in to find my inbox flooded with cruel jokes, half-hidden snickers from coworkers who thought they were clever. It was high school all over again. And it hurt more than I expected. I tried to ignore it, but Ethan saw the tension in my shoulders, the way I avoided people's eyes. One evening, he cornered me in the break room, just like he had that first time. But this time, his face wasn't mocking. It was furious. "Why didn't you tell me?" he demanded. "Because it doesn't matter," I muttered. "We knew this would happen." "It matters to me," he snapped, then lowered his voice. "Michael, I don't care what they think. Let them talk. I'm not going to hide. Not anymore." I stared at him, stunned. This was the same man who had once hidden his feelings behind cruelty, now standing tall, ready to face the world with me. And something inside me shifted. "Are you sure?" I whispered. He smiled, small, steady, unshakable. "I'm sure about you." The next morning, he walked into the office and, in front of everyone, dropped a coffee on my desk with a casual kiss to my temple. Gasps filled the room. Whispers erupted like wildfire. But Ethan didn't flinch. He just winked at me, daring anyone to say something. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. Because real love wasn't about hiding in the shadows. It was about choosing each other, even when the world watched, even when it hurt. Months later, on a quiet Sunday morning, we sat on the fire escape of his apartment, coffee mugs in hand, the city sprawling beneath us. Ethan leaned against me, head resting on my shoulder, and for once, there was no teasing, no masks, no storms, just us. "You know," he murmured, "I used to think love was weakness, that if I let someone in, they'd destroy me. And now," I asked, running my fingers through his hair, "now I know the only thing that could destroy me is losing you." I laughed softly, kissing the top of his head. "You're ridiculously dramatic." "Maybe," he said, grinning, "but I'm yours." And as the morning sun washed over us, warming the city awake, I realized he was right. Love was terrifying. It was messy and complicated and fragile. But it was also the only thing that made all the pain worth it. We had started as enemies, broken each other in ways we didn't fully understand. But somehow, through the wreckage, we had built something new, something real, something unshakable. And for the first time in a long time, I believed in happy endings. Because mine was sitting right beside me, coffee in hand, smile in his eyes, and love in every breath. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.